Kent Brown, born and raised here in Lexington. I've been a lawyer in this town for 40 years, practicing here as well as in Washington, D.C., where I'm counsel to a firm. But I have had an interest in Civil War history all my life, and one of those key moments in the development of my interest in Civil War history was when I first ran into the story of Lieutenant Alonzo H. Cushing. It took me 29 years to track down all the information on him. He is pictured in the cyclorama at Gettysburg, and that drew my attention in 1964. The reason I became interested in Cushing was that he was killed defending what we call the angle at Gettysburg against the attack of Pickett's division on July 3rd. And I often wondered as a young boy what kind of a person Cushing was, and that launched this long effort of mine to find out his story. And Cushing commanded Battery A of the 4th United States Artillery, 6 3-inch ordnance rifles. These were large guns, artillery pieces. And he had fought there on the evening of July 2nd, and then on July 3rd, he was there with his guns on Cemetery Ridge, and he withstood the enormous Confederate artillery bombardment that was manned by nearly 125 Confederate artillery pieces that were concentrated on his position at Gettysburg. And he withstood that, and then across the fields after that came nearly 11,500 Confederate troops, 3 divisions, but Pickett's division is the one that struck Cushing's position. And he was wounded 3 times. He suffered a wound in his right shoulder from an artillery shell fragment, shell burst near him. He suffered a second wound in the groin, which was a shrapnel wound as well. And he probably at that stage felt that he was going to die at that position. And his men tried to get him to go to the rear. He would not. He was quoted as saying, "I'll stay here and fight it out or die in the attempt." And as the Confederate troops were within about 300 yards of his position, they opened fire, and he was killed as a bullet entered his open mouth as he was yelling fire to his last gun crew, and he was killed instantly. His battery suffered the loss of every one of its artillery pieces, all the limbers, all the caissons. Nearly 40 battery horses were killed. And he lost nearly 80% of his men. It was a staggering loss that battery suffered, but it was largely due to the fact that he would not move away. He stayed there, even moved his guns forward nearly 50, 60 yards from where they were originally positioned until he found his death wound. He's buried at West Point. His men would not give up his remains. And his older brother, Milton Cushing, came to Gettysburg and claimed his remains and took them to West Point, where he was buried on the 12th of July.